The Color Harmony tab here, Infinite Color Suite, allows you to create color schemes for your images. And the good thing about color schemes is that it, with little effort, allows you to create harmonious and pleasing color tones without doing much. All you really need to do is come over here, click on the Create button once you have a harmony set. So for example, let's say you have a complementary color grade or a color tone that you'd like to do. And that's the simplest example. I'll show you how this works. Once I have this button selected, you'll see an icon which has these two colors that are at the opposite ends of each other, or these dots that are at the opposite ends of each other, which means that the colors will be two, and it'll create something very complementary. That's why it's called the complementary color scheme. Now I'll hit Create, and now it's going to ask me what color would I like in my shadows. So I'm simply going to click on, say, this nice cyanish tone. I'll hit OK. And it's going to allow me to automatically generate this group. And don't worry, I'll adjust this in a second. But when I come over down here to my gradient map, you will see one thing happen. Under your properties, if you don't have properties loaded, it's under Window and Properties. You will see the colors themselves that are being reflected in the image. Naturally, I would not recommend you use the color blend mode by default. You can change the opacity if you want to. For this particular image, maybe having something lower is better. But let's say you would like to change the blend mode. Over here on the bottom left, we have this little icon. It says C, which is reflective of the color blend mode. When I click on it once, it changes over to soft light. And for me, I think soft light works a lot better when it comes to color grading, personally speaking. But you can experiment the differences yourself. I think soft light, what it does, adds nice contrast along with the colors that you've chosen. So it's a better integration over the original color tones in the image with ones that you've selected. You can also reselect the colors by hitting Create, and then maybe I'll want something a bit darker. It's like a dark blue like that, and see what a difference it makes by changing the brightness of that color. It automatically selected and placed the color that we put into the shadows. But on the other side of the spectrum, it created a color that's the specific complementary color tone to whatever that we've picked. And it makes it super easy for us to do. Now let's say that we would like to use some of these other options. We have a triadic, which is a 3-point color scheme. So it will select 3 colors now that are on the opposite ends of each other. You see how it just kept that blue that we have selected, but it will generate these 2 other colors that are all equidistant from each other on the color wheel, which makes your shadows, midtones, and highlights actually look quite pleasing. And you can see this image here that Luca created looks fairly beautiful just by selecting a few different colors. There's a couple other things that we have included. You can obviously go into 4-point or 5-point and adjust the opacity and see how it looks. And 5-point actually does something that's really intricate and unique, and you can decide whatever color scheme that you like. However, let's go back to our complementary for a second, and I want to talk about shift. Shift is a way to change the balance of the color scheme. Let's say right now, as you can see here in the gradient map option, we have the shadows and highlights, or half of the image and the other half of the image, in one tone and the other. But perhaps you would like these warm tones to impact the image a little bit more. What we could do is if we adjust the shift to the left, you can see here that now the balance is shifted to the left. And what that means is that more of the image here is being impacted, because this is very similar to a histogram. And the histogram itself is on the left being shadows and the right being highlights and everything in the middle being gradation. So now we have more warm tones encroaching into the shadow region. And the further I go, the more it impacts. So now this is good because you might not know specifically how much shadows are in an image or where the shadows start and end, but just by pushing the shift left and right, you decide exactly what the balance is going to be. Furthermore, we have another option here called rotation, where if I click on this, it will shift the colors to the left. So here's what I mean. Let me go back to this triadic color scheme really quick so you can see a few different colors. I will reset the shift in the middle here, and pay attention to what happens to the colors as I hit this rotate function. And the colors will basically cycle through. the different regions like this. So you can see that reddish pinkish tone go from highlights, midtones to shadows and back again. So it allows you to determine what color you want where within the color scheme itself. And as you look at the image, you can see it actually makes a big difference. Finally, we have a randomize function, which will randomize infinite color to whatever you like within a gradient map. So you can see here that the colors will completely randomize as you keep the color scheme the same. And of course, I would recommend maybe reducing the opacity to begin with, around 10% or so, and then decide if you'd like more or less and keep adjusting it that way. The randomization function is very interesting and can by itself be used to create really quick and harmonious color tones, just like that. And simply put, you're able to do it. Finally, you can also hit Option or Alt and come up with another stack as well. So it will then just add another folder with another gradient map. And again, infinite color will remember which gradient map is what and adjust accordingly. And we also have settings. So if you right click on create, you can change the group color similar to the infinite color portion, as well as the group mask, and making sure it's always on top. So there you go. I think with that in mind, I think, you're able to have a good understanding of how infinite harmony works.